All right. Let's dive deep into Grant Cardone and this idea of be obsessed or be average.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So we've got like excerpts from the book.
Okay.
And a couple of study guides just to help kind of break it all down. And,
Right.
you know, are you ready to get obsessed with success?
I'm ready. All right.
I think so.
Let's do it.
Okay. So Cardone, he starts off the book and tells us his story.
Right.
And it's a pretty wild story.
Yeah.
He talks about growing up in Louisiana.
Okay.
And he goes back and forth between like incredible abundance and then just this like harsh reality of scarcity, right?
Yeah.
So his dad, he was a really successful stockbroker,
Okay.
totally dedicated to providing for the family. But then he passed away suddenly when Cardone was really young.
Right.
And then his mom was left to support 5 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that experience of going from like, you know, a life of plenty
Yeah.
to like really struggling to make ends meet, it really shaped his worldview.
Totally. I mean, you can see how like that fear of scarcity can be
Yeah.
such a powerful motivator.
Absolutely. He actually calls his mother obsessed with making ends meet. And it's not like in a bad way.
Right.
It's just to highlight that like intense focus
Right.
on financial security, you know?
Yeah.
And even though he like disagreed with her, you know, middle class mindset,
Okay.
it seems like that experience really lit a fire in him to achieve massive success.
Interesting.
Yeah. It makes you think like how our early experiences shape
Right.
our own definitions of success, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it ties directly into his argument against what he calls
Yeah.
the epidemic of average.
Right.
He argues that like
Yeah.
settling for average is basically a recipe for a life of worry, you know?
Right.
And unfulfilled potential.
Yeah. And he doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't.
He uses some pretty stark statistics about debt declining homeownership, low engagement at work,
Yeah.
to paint a picture of a society that's really just stuck.
Right.
Yeah. Have you ever felt that pressure
Oh, yeah.
to just get by?
Totally. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that like a lot of us grapple with.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
And Cardone, he really wants to shake people out of that complacency,
Yeah.
right? And he challenges what he calls average advice.
Average advice.
Those well-meaning platitudes,
Okay.
like money doesn't buy happiness,
Okay.
or like don't compare yourself to others,
Yeah. Yeah.
that he believes just discourage ambition.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it's like he's saying those who have given up on their dreams,
Right.
they try to convince everyone else to do the same.
Oh, interesting.
Instead,
Yeah.
he argues that like true success allows you to take care of yourself
Right.
and contribute to your community
Yeah.
in a meaningful way.
Absolutely. It's about like empowerment, not just personal gain.
Exactly.
And that's where I think this idea of obsession comes in. And he's not advocating
Right.
for like unhealthy,
Right.
all-consuming fixation.
Right.
It's more about this like relentless dedication to achieving your goals and
Yeah.
living a life of purpose.
Okay, I see the distinction.
Yeah.
He uses examples like Steve Jobs
Okay.
wanting to put a dent in the universe.
Right.
Or Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech
Yeah.
to illustrate this like powerful,
Okay.
positive obsession.
Right. So it's about having like a vision that's so compelling that it
Yeah.
fuels your actions.
Yeah.
And propels you forward. And I think that's something that like
That's-
everyone can relate to on some level, you know?
Absolutely.
Having that driving force that
Yeah,
pushes you to be your best.
for sure.
Yeah.
And Cardone, he really hammers home this point that you are the sole owner of your dreams. No one else
Yeah.
can achieve them for you. It's about taking responsibility
Right.
and pursuing your goals
Yeah.
with unwavering commitment.
He's a big proponent of taking control
Yeah.
and making things happen rather than passively waiting for success to fall into your lap.
Exactly. So like,
Yeah.
but how do we actually embrace this like obsessed mindset
Right. How do we actually do this?
in a practical way?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he lays out
Okay.
some pretty concrete strategies in the book.
Okay.
And one of the most important is goal setting,
Goals. Okay.
which probably doesn't come as a surprise.
Right.
But Cardone's approach is a little more intense.
All right.
So he's a huge believer in setting massive goals,
Massive.
writing them down and revising them upwards as you hit milestones.
So you're constantly pushing yourself further.
Right. No settling for small wins.
Gotcha.
Right. He actually shares this story
Okay.
about keeping a legal pad
Really?
next to his bed. to jot down his goals, which he says helped him stay focused.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I mean, I keep a goal journal. I don't know about the bedside notepad, but I can see how consistently reminding yourself of your goals keeps them top of mind.
Absolutely. It's a way to just constantly reinforce your commitment.
Yeah. Another key strategy that Cardone emphasizes is financial dominance.
Right.
And he takes a really aggressive approach.
Yeah.
Advocating for maximizing cash flow.
Right.
Treating companies like produce stands.
Okay.
He has this 955 rule.
Okay.
95% focus on generating income.
Right.
5% on budgeting.
Wow.
It makes you wonder, though.
Yeah.
Is this level of intensity sustainable for everyone?
Right.
Or is it more
Yeah.
applicable to entrepreneurs?
That's a great question.
Yeah. What do you think, listener? Does this approach work for you?
Yeah. I know some people thrive on that constant hustle.
Right.
While others might find it overwhelming.
Totally.
So,
yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It's definitely bold, but Cardone's all about like pushing boundaries, you know? And he also talks about rejecting limiting beliefs.
Oh,
things like the myth of burnout or the idea that you need a ton of free time.
He actually argues that free time can be a threat to success.
Right.
He's so big on pushing yourself, staying focused, and holding yourself accountable. And, you know, it's a bit jarring to hear at first.
Right.
Especially in a culture that often glorifies work-life balance.
Yeah.
So, like, do you think there's a healthy middle ground? Or is he right about the dangers of too much downtime?
That's a great question. And I think that's something we all got to figure out for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's definitely a risk of burnout if you're constantly pushing yourself without taking breaks. But his point is we shouldn't let like fear or complacency hold us back from achieving our full potential.
That makes sense. He's definitely challenging us to rethink our assumptions about success.
Yeah.
And speaking of challenging assumptions,
okay,
Cardone has this unique perspective on control that I found really interesting.
Oh, really?
He argues that the fear of being labeled a control freak is actually holding people back.
Interesting. So he's like embracing the term.
He embraces the term.
But with a positive spin.
Yeah.
Okay.
He sees it as a commitment to shaping outcomes and taking responsibility rather than being a victim of circumstance.
So it's not about like micromanaging every detail or trying to control other people,
right?
But it's about like taking ownership of your own life and decisions.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that you have more power than you think to influence your own destiny.
Yeah.
And that can be a really empowering concept.
For sure. What do you think, listener? Do you feel like you have enough control over your own life?
That's a great question for self-reflection. Cardone encourages us to look for opportunities to exert more control, even in situations where we might feel powerless.
Okay.
So like, you know, if you see a problem at work and your boss hasn't addressed it, he would say, take the initiative and try to fix it yourself.
He's all about taking action and not letting fear or indecision paralyze you.
Right.
He'd rather see people make mistakes and learn from them than just sit back and do nothing.
He's definitely not afraid to challenge conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
And this ties into another key element of his philosophy, embracing failure. He argues that most people are too afraid of making mistakes.
Right.
Which prevents them from taking risks to achieve success.
And he believes that, like, failure is essential for growth.
He does?
He uses examples like Walt Disney, you know, his first animation company went bankrupt, and Stephen King, whose first book was rejected 30 times.
Oh my gosh.
You know, these are individuals who could have easily given up.
Totally.
But their passion and persistence drove them to keep going.
It's inspiring to see how those setbacks can fuel even greater success.
Yeah.
And Cardone shares a personal story about what he calls the Salt Lake City miracle.
Okay.
So that really illustrates this point. So he was struggling to get his first business off the ground, facing constant rejection, feeling pretty defeated, even looking to horoscopes for guidance.
Wow. Sounds like he was at a real low point.
He was at a low point.
Okay.
But then he had this moment of serendipity while he was driving. He saw a license plate that read SLC.
SLC.
And he took it as a sign.
Wow.
To try his luck in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
Even though it seemed like a long shot.
Interesting.
And that seemingly random decision changed everything.
Really?
He went all in.
Wow.
Made countless cold calls, landed some major deals, and launched his career.
It's amazing how sometimes taking a leap of faith can lead to those unexpected breakthroughs.
Right. And it's not just about luck. It's about being open to possibilities.
Yeah.
And having the courage to act on them.
Totally.
Cardone really emphasizes that you can't achieve anything remarkable.
Right.
By playing it safe, you have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone. Embrace the possibility of failure.
Yeah.
And learn from your mistakes.
It's about pushing your boundaries and believing in your ability to overcome challenges.
Absolutely. And speaking of pushing boundaries, Cardone has some pretty strong opinions about sales.
Oh, really? What does he say about sales?
He believes that anyone who wants to succeed in business needs to be obsessed with selling,
Okay.
whether they like it or not.
Interesting.
He calls sales the holy grail of business. Because without sales, there's no revenue, no growth, and ultimately no company.
Right.
He even challenges this idea that some people are just not sales types.
Oh, so he thinks that anyone can be good at sales.
He argues that we're all selling something all the time,
Okay.
whether it's an idea, a product, or even ourselves in job interviews or social situations.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a point.
He does to truly excel in sales. Cardone recommends several key strategies.
Okay. Like what?
First, you have to be absolutely obsessed with closing the deal.
All right.
He says if you don't believe in your product or service enough to passionately advocate for it,
Yeah.
you're not likely to succeed.
That makes sense.
He also stresses the importance of pushing yourself and others with accountability. He believes in setting ambitious targets and holding everyone responsible for reaching them.
Okay.
And, this might sound intense,
Yeah.
but it can be incredibly motivating when done effectively.
Right.
He also recommends having a sales meeting every single day,
Every day.
whether it's with your team, a partner, or even just a self-check-in.
Okay.
And he believes in leading by example.
Right.
He's not afraid to pick up the phone and close a deal himself
Wow.
to show his team how it's done.
So he's really in the trenches with them.
He encourages people to make giant claims,
Yeah.
bold statements about the value they can deliver. He believes that underselling yourself does a disservice to both you and the customer.
Right.
But of course, you also need to be able to back up those claims with exceptional products and service.
Right. You got to be able to deliver.
Exactly. And that's where confidence comes in.
Confidence. Okay.
Cardone believes that true confidence is contagious
Yeah.
and inspires trust in customers. He encourages people to project an image of success, even if they haven't fully achieved it yet.
So it's about playing the role until it becomes reality.
It is. What do you think of that idea?
I think there's a fine line between projecting confidence and being inauthentic.
Yeah.
But I can see how believing in yourself and your abilities can be a powerful tool for success.
Yeah, it's about shifting your mindset and stepping into the role you want to play.
Right.
And this ties into Cardone's emphasis on investing heavily in marketing and advertising.
Marketing and advertising. I love
He
it.
believes that most people fail with marketing because they underestimate the effort required to truly dominate their niche. He's a big proponent of social media and sees it as a powerful tool for building your brand and connecting with potential customers.
Right. He's definitely not afraid to put himself out there.
And finally, Cardone emphasizes the importance of never stopping learning.
Never stop learning.
He's a voracious reader and encourages others to constantly seek out new knowledge and skills.
Right.
He sees personal growth as essential for staying ahead of the curve and achieving lasting success.
He's basically saying that the learning process never ends.
It never ends.
Yeah.
You have to constantly be evolving and adapting to stay relevant in today's fast-paced world.
And he also believes in taking care of your physical health.
Right.
Seeing physical fitness as like a key component of success.
Yeah.
He's known for his intense workout routines and encourages others to prioritize their physical well-being.
It makes sense. You need energy and stamina to maintain that level of hustle.
Totally.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From Cardone's personal journey to his strategies for success in sales marketing and personal development.
Yeah, he's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
He is. His approach might not be for everyone.
Right.
But he offers some really valuable insights into what it takes to achieve extraordinary results.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot to absorb, for sure.
Right. He's not afraid to challenge conventional thinking.
Yeah.
And offers a really direct and actionable approach to achieving success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it also raises some important questions.
Right.
Where do you even begin? And is this obsessed mindset sustainable?
Yeah. Is it realistic for the long term?
In the long run.
Right.
Right? Those are great questions. And I think it's important to acknowledge that Cardone's approach might not resonate with everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
It can feel pretty intense, and it definitely requires a certain level of self-discipline and commitment.
Yeah.
So out of all the strategies Cardone outlines, is there one that stood out to you as particularly impactful?
For me, it's his emphasis on building a strong team.
Okay.
He talks about attracting and retaining top talent by creating a culture where people feel valued, challenged, and empowered to do their best work.
Yeah, he also talks about actively seeking out high performers.
Right.
He says, chase the talent.
Wow.
And persist till they're yours.
That's bold.
Yeah, he's not afraid to go after the best people, even if they're already working for someone else.
Right. That takes a lot of confidence.
It does, and it speaks to his belief.
Yeah.
And the power of surrounding yourself with talented and driven individuals.
And then there's his perspective on turnover.
Okay.
Which is a bit counterintuitive.
Right.
Most companies dread turnover.
Yeah.
But Cardone actually sees it as like a natural part of growth.
I'm curious to hear more about that. How can letting people go be a positive thing?
Well, he argues that by letting go of people who aren't fully aligned with the company's vision, you create space for new talent and energy to come in.
So it's about
constantly raising the bar.
Okay.
And ensuring that everyone on the team is contributing at their highest level.
So it's about embracing change and evolution as part of the growth process.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that not everyone is meant to be on the journey with you for the long haul.
For sure.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes parting ways can be beneficial for both parties involved.
Absolutely. We've talked about building a team.
Yeah.
But what about the individual?
Right.
How can someone who's maybe feeling stuck or average start to embrace this obsessed mindset?
Well, Cardone offers a lot of practical strategies.
Yeah.
But I think one of the most powerful is simply the decision to exert more control in your life.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that you have more agency than you think and taking responsibility for your own choices and actions.
So instead of waiting for permission or the perfect opportunity, you take the initiative and start making things happen.
Right. It's about shifting from a passive mindset to an active one.
Yeah, and Cardone also encourages people to play the role.
Oh, play the role.
Of the person they want to become.
Okay.
He says, assume the role of a successful person, even if you're not yet.
Interesting.
He believes that by acting as if you've already achieved your goals, you start to attract the people, resources, and opportunities you need to make them a reality.
So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
It's about shifting your mindset and believing in your own potential.
Right.
And it's about taking action.
Yeah.
Cardone's all about action.
Right.
He says, every day, I'm looking for the thing I can do that no one else is willing to do. That's where all the money is.
Yeah.
That's where the big deals are.
That's powerful.
Right. It's a reminder that success rarely comes from playing it safe.
Right.
You have to be willing to put yourself out there, take risks, and even fail sometimes.
And he's a big believer in the power of momentum.
Right.
He says motion creates emotion.
Okay.
By taking action, even small steps, you start to build confidence, generate positive energy, and that can lead to even bigger and bolder actions.
Absolutely.
Down the road.
So to wrap things up, we've explored Grant Cardone's world of be obsessed or be average.
Be obsessed or be average.
We unpacked his personal journey, his arguments for rejecting mediocrity, and his practical strategies for achieving extraordinary results. From setting ambitious goals to building a high-performing team. And embracing failure as a stepping stone to success.
Absolutely. It's a lot to process. But hopefully you've gleaned some valuable insights.
Into the power of an obsessed mindset.
An obsessed mindset. Absolutely.
You remember, listener, this is just a starting point. The real journey begins. When you take what you've learned and apply it to your own life.
What will you do differently? Starting today based on what you've learned?
That's something to ponder as you continue on your own path to success.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.